Welcome to the village. So today I'm with a really important guest host of mine who I've been waiting to talk to. Hi, Ginger.
Good morning.
Morning. So Ginger Champain is the program coordinator for cancer prevention and action at St. Mary's Healthcare, which reaches Fulton, Montgomery, and Schenectady counties. If that's correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know it's a rainy day today, but we're here to talk about sun safety. You were just telling me when I was setting up about some of the things that are going on lately with the cancer prevention and action programs.
That's right. So what we try to do in our community is educate our 3 counties about the importance of bringing in some behaviors into your daily activities that could really reduce your risk towards cancer. So currently, 120,000 New Yorkers are going to learn that they have been diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
But 42% of those cancers could have been prevented. So this is one of the pieces that we try to work with, and skin cancer is the most common cancer across the board, and it's going to affect 1 in 5 Americans. So it's a very high prevalence of skin cancer, but a lot of people don't realize that it's also preventable. And you can do some simple strategies throughout your day to really incorporate some changes, and these changes can make a difference in your life.
I don't think people realize the statistics on it. Like 1 in 5 Americans to be diagnosed with skin cancer is pretty large, probably because we don't really talk about it that much.
You're absolutely right. And actually, there was a recent survey that was completed by the CDC that actually showed that 1 in 3 adults in the state of New York, so that's 33.6%, report rarely or never using sun protection when outside on a warm, sunny day for more than an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of people. And I think that we can easily incorporate some simple strategies that could really protect our skin.
You're right, especially if we just kind of pay attention to it and realize that it's not really just the sunny days where we need to think about that. I think we think about it's a sunny, nice day, and we think about sun is good for the most part. We need sun, we need vitamin D, and sun is a good thing, which it is. Sun is a great thing, but the damage it can cause when we overexpose, right?
Absolutely. So I think it's important to know a little bit about UV radiation. There's 3 different forms of UV radiation, and this is especially important to teach to our children. So you have UVA, UVB, and UVC radiation. UVA is the most dangerous radiation, and it can penetrate deep through the layers of the skin. It can actually pass through glass and windows. And this particular strain or intensity of the UVA radiation is prevalent all year round, all day. Now, the UVB, it also can cause burning and skin cancer, and it can also penetrate outer layers of our skin. But this level of UV radiation, the UVB, is strongest in the spring and in the fall between 10 and 4. But it's still prevalent all day long. And then, of course, the UVC, that gets absorbed in our atmosphere. So that doesn't really affect us. Okay. But these are some things that I think are important that we can teach our children so they understand that, yes, you can get damage to your skin all year long.
Yeah, that's something, especially thinking about like spring and fall. We don't usually think about those as high sun times, and we kind of just want the sun when we can get it, especially in an area like New York, particularly upstate New York, where we don't get a lot of sun.
Absolutely.
You're right. That little thing called the UV index that you can try to pay attention to. I think when they do the weather reports, they always report it to you.
So one thing that I wanted to share, over the past couple of years, the rates of skin cancer have been increasing every year over the last several decades. So we actually have science now that we can share that in the 1970s, it was much lower, the skin cancer rates, and then it has increased in the 1980s. And then it has increased even more in the 1990s. And then here we are, we're in the 2000s, we're in 2023, and the numbers keep climbing. So 1 out of 3 young white women ages 16 to 25 actually use some practices that could be damaging to our skin, and that's indoor tanning.
Okay. I don't think everybody realizes that tanning also can damage the skin.
It can. Yeah, those are artificial rays that are stronger. And indoor tanning, we normally talk about it or hear about it this time of year because we are entering prom season.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to get that natural glow, but we really think that it's important that they understand that this is a cancer-causing agent. Indoor tanning can do severe damage to our skin. And in New York State, they have further made it into a law where anyone under the age of 18 is prohibited from using indoor tanning devices.
Wow.
They further amended it where you can't even have a parental consent to use indoor tanning devices or go to these sort of tanning salons. So that's a very big piece that I want to just point out too, because it's really important that you love the skin that you're in and that you take care of the skin that you're in. Avoiding these types of sun lamps or ultraviolet radiation lamps will definitely be beneficial to you in the long term.
What are some other reasons that skin cancer rates are increasing? I just want people to know why it's happening and, why we should try to prevent it. What are the other things we're doing?
So I think it's important that we share the education, and we don't necessarily receive that education as a child. And as you start your day off, this is where I think that you can teach your children to incorporate things like looking at the UV index on a regular basis. Now, the UV index is a fantastic tool that you can actually find on many media platforms, many news channels. You can pop it up on your phone. But if you look at that UV index, you can plan your day and what you need to do as you're doing your activities. So, for example, if you're attending a family reunion, because we're getting into that season where everybody's going to want to be outside and visit with their friends and loved ones, you might want to look at the time, check the UV index. And if the UV index is saying that on that particular day, it's going to be an 8, that means 20 minutes or less your skin could burn. So what are you doing to prepare yourself for that adventure? We want you to have fun, but we want you to do it being safe.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you said, on the UV index, the World Health Organization website actually explains the different indices. So 0 to 2, there's little to no risk. 3 to 7, you should have shade. You should make sure that you're in a shaded area during the midday hours, like you had mentioned. 10 to 4, is it? Or 9 to 3?
Correct.
Somewhere like that.
The highest intensity of the day is 10 a.m. to 4. Correct. And if the UV index is at a 3 to 5, that's 40 minutes or less where an individual could actually get burnt or have some damage.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's pretty significant. And
it is.
And this is regardless. I mean, even if you wear sunscreen, it's not perfect. It may come off. You may sweat it off. You may not reapply. You may not put on enough.
This is just a simple tool that you could use to start your day. So we always advise people to educate yourselves, educate your children about checking that UV index out. Make sure you're planning your day. And then the next thing is when you get out of bed and you've got all of this information in your head, you're ready to go, you're getting your juice or your water or your coffee or tea. You think, well, do I need to apply sunscreen now before I go out? That might be an option that you could consider. Or should I cover up? Should I look at those types of things in your personal wardrobe? What am I going to be wearing that's going to keep me safe? So in making those choices, that's something that we'd like to educate our children about.
As you mentioned, dressing, it's the automatic desire. When it's hot, we wear less and, you want to get that sun, you want to get the tan, but wearing like loose kind of clothing that's covering more but looser so, you're not feeling too hot.
Absolutely. So there's some great products on the market right now. We have rash guards, which are available, and they're very easy. They're moisture wicking, so you don't really feel the heat if it is really warm outside. And that eliminates the worry and the concern of applying sunscreen every 2 hours. So covering up is an easy choice. There's also a new product that's come out fairly recently, and they're called UV sleeves. These are worn by a lot of our professional athletes. And this is a product that I think you're going to see more and more of now. They're very simple to apply. They're very easy to fold up, and they just apply through your hand, through your wrist, like you're putting on a watch. They go all the way up over the elbow and the bicep. You can remove them easily and fold them and put them back in your bag or in your pocket, and you wouldn't even realize it. But that might be an option to keep your exposure on your arms safe and reduce that.
That's really great, because your arms are out and it's soaking up the sun and doing a lot of damage. Like you had mentioned some of the statistics too with cancers. I think some of the other reasons that we're seeing more is, of course, the environment and, the ozone layer. We all hear about it, but it's not really a laughing matter. If more UV rays are getting through, they're going to cause more damage.
Yeah, I think incorporating these strategies on a regular basis are really important, and making sure that you're educating your children or your loved ones about that. If it's a Saturday and you're teaching your teen to do some lawn care and, strengthen their responsibility skills at the same time, are you asking them to make sure that they've got a wide brimmed hat on so they're not getting exposed? Or are they wearing sunglasses? I think sunglasses is a very good option because a lot of ocular cancers are captured later in life, and it's due to ultraviolet radiation exposure.
Yeah, you're right that the sun damage is real for your eyes too. You want to keep, you've only got one pair of eyes, so we have to keep ourselves preserved. The other thing people don't think about is the aging. If you want I know a lot of young girls nowadays too, or, they're using all the products to the anti-aging and the jade rollers, which is all great, but sun is very damaging to the skin and ages you and ages the skin. So any kind of damage is in essence aging your body.
Absolutely. And wide brimmed hats when you're outside can really protect your face. That's full coverage. You want to make sure that you're covering the hairline, the ears, the back of the neck. So that would eliminate that damage to the skin that could happen.
Yeah.
The sunglasses, if you're not wearing sunglasses, there could be some effects other than eye cancer. You could be looking at premature cataracts, sunburned eyes, or growths on or near the eye. But excessive sun exposure can definitely put you at risk for all of them. So we highly recommend sunglasses that are a UVA or UVB protectant. You can take a look at that. And much like you go to visit yourself, a pediatrician, on a yearly basis, you should really consider visiting an eye doctor on a regular basis too.
Yeah, no, that's true. Whether or not you require glasses, seeing the eye doctor and getting the back of your eyes checked. As the pediatricians, we don't do a thorough check. We don't have that training like an eye doctor does to really look at the back of your eye and check for damage. So yeah, very true.
Yeah.
And with the sunglasses you mentioned too, I read some interesting points about that. The more expensive doesn't mean more protective.
Correct.
So we don't have to go out and get, the DKNY just to make sure it states that it's UV protecting. And there's a difference between the tinted glasses and actual sun protection. Sometimes, and I read this interesting point, if they're tinted, that actually might be worse for your eyes because when you have a tint, your pupils dilate. But if they don't have a UV protection, if your pupils are dilated, they're actually increasing the amount of UV rays going in. So tint might be a bad thing. So just check, like you said, make sure they state that it's UV protecting.
Absolutely. To install those practices in our children so that they get comfortable with it and get to a norm. Like, this is a new behavior that I'm going to do for myself as I grow through my teen and my college years and, into my own adulthood.
Yeah, starting good practices early, and if you get to understand why it happens, because a lot of kids will come in with these burns and, of all ages. And they say, yeah, I know, and they know that it's bad and it hurts and it doesn't feel good and it doesn't look good and it keeps you out of the sun for some days until it heals, or else you're just in pain.
Absolutely. So that's damage to the skin, and it doesn't necessarily reverse itself. So you really want to be careful to protect yourself. And sunscreen is an option as well. There's lots of sunscreen products that are out there. The market is flooded with them. I highly recommend that everybody do their due diligence and read the labels that are on there. The CDC recommendation is an SPF 15 or higher. We have seen some local pediatricians and doctors recommend that on your face and your neck, you might want to go a little bit higher on that SPF. And SPF, right? Like, what is SPF? That's always a contender in our conversations around the community. So it's sun protection factor. That's something that you can look at. And it should be clearly labeled on the sunscreen product that you're purchasing. That's a requirement. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that. And you have it available for you. If you're going to be applying makeup, some makeups have this SPF in there. You can always consider that. But on newborns, I think it's important that we have a little bit of a conversation about newborns because they shouldn't be using sunscreen products at all.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, up to 6 months. You want to make sure that you have the permission from your pediatrician, that you're doing a trial patch on the skin. I think you might be able to share a little bit more about that.
I think that the best thing, like you said, is to keep babies out of the sun. If you are going to be out in the sun, the babies should be covered up. They should be fully covered up. Baby sun exposure is not good. Baby skin is more delicate and sensitive. They don't have the ability to combat anything on their skin. So they're going to get the brunt of the UV radiation. Like you said, with sunscreen, then any kind of ingredients in the sunscreen could absorb more into their skin because their skin absorbs more. It's thinner. It's more translucent. So in that way, those sun products that are meant to be protective can actually be worse for the baby. So first of all, avoidance and then covering up. I know, when we talk about bilirubin and jaundice, that's a different conversation. If your baby's jaundiced and they need some sort of sun therapy for some reason, the pediatrician will discuss the exact way to do that. And that's a different topic. So that's not to be confused with, what we're talking about now, which is, when you have a newborn or a baby up to 6 months, they really shouldn't be in the sun. If you're out with the family, try to keep the baby shaded. They do have the strollers with the, what is it called?
Canopies?
Yes.
Yeah.
the stroller canopy, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can cover that up. And then, like you said, the worst case scenario, if for any reason you find yourself in a situation where a baby less than 6 months is going to be in the sun, you can try to use a little sunscreen that's for children sparingly, test it out and see if they have a reaction on their skin. And if it's fine, you can maybe use a little bit in the exposed areas of their body, but those areas should be minimal. And again, even if you do a patch test, that's an immediate reaction. We don't want those ingredients from the sunscreen to be absorbed into the baby's skin, which you can't physically see that happening.
Sure.
And it's not chemical, like, there's different products. I think for children, they don't use the chemical sunscreen. I
think they're more mineral-based, absolutely. Yeah. And we highly recommend the mineral-based products. But covering up is definitely, an easier strategy, especially with the babies. But there's lots of wonderful products out there that are truly inexpensive. There's the wide-brimmed hats that have the back of the neck coverage. There's the rash guards, and it just eliminates that worry about, how do I keep my baby safe or getting that sunburn. That's the worst thing is an upset baby.
Exactly. And babies get overheated. They don't sweat the way we do. So when they get too hot, they will get cranky and cry and dehydrated, and they can feel sick and very upset. So that's another thing. With the sun comes heat, depending on the season, but your baby could overheat being outside, and that's a different issue, but a serious one.
Sure.
If your baby's cranky, it could be they're too hot.
Yeah.
They overheat more than we do.
And as we enter into the season of everybody coming together or going to the local family festivals or family reunions or, maybe just a trip to the local fair, those types of things, take a minute before you rush out and get into the car and get ready to go. Take a minute and do some planning. Make sure that you have what you need with you to keep your child safe and protected from the sun. So, for example, if you're going to meet your family at a local park, do you have shade product? If you have an easy up portable tent that you could bring with you and, maybe your brother or sibling could help you put it up, I would do so. It's going to be very beneficial and you'll be able to enjoy each other's conversations a little bit more and continue to build those relationships. But if you start to get that burn and people are starting to walk away or try to figure out, a different way to protect themselves from the sun, you're not going to build those relationships anymore. Your child's going to start to get cranky. You're going to be hurting.
Right.
I mean, it's just better to take those extra measures.
Exactly. You are going to be hurting.
Yeah.
Sunburns are tough.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can just mention, too, you should stay hydrated, especially if you get a burn. You want to stay hydrated because that skin is compromised now. And just aloe vera gel is great for burns, too, or any kind of skin thing. So if you do end up with a burn, there's things you can do, but the damage to the skin and the DNA remains. I mean,
it does.
At the end, that's when we talk about skin damage. Once you heal, you may think you're okay, but the DNA in your body is not.
Right. So if you look at cancer, the definition is abnormal cells that grow out of control and they form masses known as tumors, right?
Right.
So you have that first sentence, that abnormal cells. Well, what can you do to keep the cells normal? What can you do to protect those cells, to shield those cells? You really can take these extra steps. And sun safety is a very important factor that we should really build into our daily activities.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because like you said, the cells are damaged, free radicals are formed. These are all toxins.
Yeah.
And that's any kind of cancer, which you mentioned. I think the thing that people should maybe realize too is with skin cancer, when you think about those really deadly ones, they're not as common, but they still do exist. So, people don't hear about it as much maybe because they're not as common, but there's other disfiguring cancers that are common, like the basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas that may need like surgical treatment, things like that. So they may not be deadly, but they're difficult to treat and can cause disfigurement.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're diagnosed with a basal cell or a squamous cell, you have to think about it like this, right? We actually met a wonderful gentleman in our community, and he had a profound statement that really has resonated with me. And that is that your body knows the code to make cancer.
Wow.
So, if you think about it that way, it knows the formula. So what can I do to counter that formula?
Right.
What can I throw at that formula so it's not going to make some more or reproduce? And this is where you can bring in those sun safety measures, really on a regular basis, make sure that you're being proactive and get ahead of the game.
Yeah, to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah.
You only have the one body to love for the rest of your life.
It's an important topic now. May is Melanoma Awareness Month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a good time for that.
Yeah. And melanoma is the deadliest form of skin cancer. It's affecting a lot of men. Men are more likely than women to get skin cancer because men tend to spend more time outdoors as they're more likely than women to work outside.
Right.
So we think it's very important that we take care of our loved ones as well, our husbands, our boyfriends, our siblings. We're currently working with a wonderful project for Montgomery County, and we have actually been able to get a sun safety policy with Montgomery County. And what they're doing is they're educating their entire workforce. So their workforce is 450 employees, and about 250 of them are in the sun more than 5 hours a week. So we've provided them with some education as well as some more support for policy implementation. The education was fantastic. We just concluded our last session with them, and they really appreciated the education, and they learned a lot. We did some surveys, and at the end of it, all of them said that they learned more from our education about sun safety than they did going into the presentation. So really excited about that, using those sunglasses on a regular basis. And they have a tendency to be on reflective surfaces. So reflectivity from the sun can do much more damage too, because as the sun's rays go down onto surfaces like concrete or blacktop or sand or water, it comes back up into our face 4 times as strong. And this is what's happening with a lot of people that work outdoors on a regular basis. It's coming up stronger. They're getting burnt. So now the county has put in some implementations and some actions. So they're going to be wearing sunglasses. They're going to be really reducing their time doing those sort of activities from 10 to 4, really doing a lot more in the early mornings. And then maybe in the afternoons, they might be bringing, the lawnmowers inside the garages and getting them tuned up or ready for the next day's activities, but doing the more intense outdoor activities in the morning hours.
Yeah, see, this is so incredible. Like this education I mean, you're telling me things that I can tell my families because I didn't know about this, when you're outside and the reflection and how you think about sun being directly on you, but no, there's ways it can be worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think of your family, you want to go to the shore or you want to go to one of the lakes and go to the beach. You go to the beach, that sand can come back up and it can hurt your face. It can really burn your eyes. So you want to make sure that you're taking steps to have the sunglasses on, to bring those tents with you, or maybe see if you get to the beach and there's some trees around, maybe you're going to be the family that wants to go for those trees first. I know I would be.
Right. And you think about it, if you're outside, you'll still get the benefits of the sun. I mean, we wait all year long for direct, really sunny days. Like you said, there's sun all year around. We may not see it, but we're still getting the UV rays. But when we get that sunshine, it does improve your mood. Kids can be outside. They can be active. We can see each other more. We can, improve our mood, decrease stress, have all those cool outdoor activities like the beach, like you said, which I'm a beach girl. So that's definitely a happy place for me, but yeah, you don't want it to become something that's actually damaging you. So
right, you don't want to do an emergency room visit or a doctor visit after the adventure. You want to be able to be safe, keep your loved ones around you safe. It's a great time of year to get out and get the exercise in, play some ball with your little ones or your pets, take them for a walk. All of that is wonderful, but you can do it safely in the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to remind everyone that you do have to reapply your sunscreen, right?
That's right. You should be considering it every 2 hours, unless you're sweating excessively or if you're in the water. So, for example, if you have a backyard pool and you're going to be in the water, the kids are going to be in the water for a while and it gets to be, an hour, hour and a half in, you can start to check them. And then every 2 hours, you should be really having them come out of the water and then reapply, or make sure that they're wearing full rash guards. Rash guards really eliminate for that worry for reapplying. Yeah. And the size of the sunscreen too, I think that's important to kind of touch in on a little bit. You want to be applying a generous amount. It should be an ounce or more. So a good palm size should be going on, and you want to smooth it into the skin so it gets in those crevices, right? All those pores on your skin. You don't want to just put a light piece on there because then it's not going to be doing its job, right? Yeah. There's lots of different products out there. There's the spray, there's the lip balm that now has, SPF in it. All of those things are fantastic. The sprays have a tendency to get absorbed out into the atmosphere a little bit more, and they don't necessarily reach the skin. Right. But they're a good product if you've got a family member or a loved one or a child that is just a little bit leery of having that hand-to-hand contact, right? That skin-to-skin contact. So this you can spray and you're not actually touching anybody, So that's a possibility, and it could be used at a lot of different atmospheres.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to know that about the spray because, I always had the impression it didn't work as well. But if you're not going to have the option of the lotion, the spray is still a good thing to do. Yeah,
some sunscreen might be better than no sunscreen. Exactly. It just depends on, the environment, the climate.
Right. And the product might state that it's waterproof, but it still needs reapplication. Right?
It does. Yeah. We actually do some experiments with our students when we're out, and you can take a jar of water and then you could take a regular glass, and on the glass you can paint on some sunscreen. And then you put it in the bigger jar with the water and you swish it around and the sunscreen comes off. Wow. So you can actually show and illustrate, how easy and how quickly it can come off. So that's why it's important if you are going to be on those water surfaces that you do watch the time a little bit and make sure that you're reapplying. Yeah. I think it's important to share in our communities as far as the skin cancer education goes that the color of your skin, the tone of your skin, it really doesn't matter. Skin cancer doesn't discriminate. So everybody with all different colors and tones of skin should really practice sun safety strategies on a regular basis to stay safe. If we have a lighter toned skin, we do have a higher instance to get a sunburn and to really feel that pain, but it can also be prevalent in other skin tones as well. And you really want to make sure that all skin tones are using eyewear. You want to make sure you have those sunglasses on, those wide brimmed hats, those sort of things. Skin cancer just does not discriminate.
as long as you have skin, you're at risk for skin cancer.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's a great way to share it. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the sunscreens smell great. Makes you feel like you're on vacation. So
Sure.
it's not a bad thing. And they make all the child products, Neutrogena, Burt's Bees, some really good products. So,
yeah. I think it's good when you have the smaller children and that you start them off young with teaching them how to apply sunscreen. And application of sunscreen can be a little bit of a challenge too for that age. So you want to think about things like the surfaces that they should cover. So you want to make sure that when they're using the sunscreen that they're getting the tops of their feet or the back of their hands, their back of their ears or their neck, or even areas on their scalp that might have a significant part in their hair. You want to make sure that that's covered too.
Okay.
So those are different things that you can teach your children. And I think it's important. We look at fashion, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially on our feet, we're wearing sandals more often, or the flip-flop shoes, which are great. They're comfortable. They keep us a little bit cooler. But at the same time, we don't want to overlook that exposed skin.
That's true. You forget about, like, if you're laying out and your feet are out there, you forget that your feet need the sunscreen too.
Those toes need love.
Yeah,
we got to protect them.
We love our toes, especially in the summer.
Absolutely.
The tip of your nose down to your toes.
There you go.
I just made that one up.
I love that. Your patients are going to love that.
Yeah, that's true. That'll resonate with them well.
I think it's just important that we really practice the sun safety on a regular basis. Build those skills with our children as they're small, and then, reward them. Give them some praise if they're doing it on their own. This is great. Hey, my goodness, look at you. You've got that sunscreen on. And did you get on your nose and all the way down to your toes? I think that's great, doctor.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But happy summer to everybody. Well, spring, but we start with Memorial Day as the official summertime beginning for us, right?
Yes, and it's a great reminder, too, being May Melanoma Awareness Month. The Friday before Memorial Day is Don't Fry Day.
Yeah.
F-R-Y.
It's true.
That's a day to just really share that message with all of our loved ones to stay safe in the sun. But Dr. Majid, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're doing for our community and for our children as they grow into our future.
Oh, same here, Ginger, and I appreciate all your education and your time, your dedication to preventing bad health outcomes and to helping us and educating us. Oh. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.